I don't do much IEM based content anymore. I pick my products very carefully when it comes to portable audio. However, if Effect Audio offered me a cable for review, I always still say yes. And there are a few reasons for that. Firstly, I found many of their cables to be excellent value for money. They're wonderfully made with high quality wire and great performance. But the pricing for the most part is also pretty reasonable. That's true in the case of the new Aries S2 X Cadmus II cable. Thankfully, I don't have to keep calling it the Aries S2 X Cadmus II cable though, because Effect Audio have also nicknamed it the AXC cable. That's much better. For $269 the AXC cable combines the solid core copper cables from the Aries S2 cable and the solid core silver plated copper wires from the Cadmus II cable. I said before though that I like Effect Audio cables for a few reasons though, and I've only mentioned one, which is the quality and price combination. In other words, what I see as value for money. Another reason I really like Effect Audio cables though is that you don't need to replace them all the time. By offering swappable plugs at both the amplifier end and the earphone end of the cable, you can keep the same cable with you no matter what your source device is or your earphones are. In other words, whatever IEM you're going to buy in the future, their cables will work with them. For a cable like the AXC cable, you do need to spend an extra $80 when you first buy it if you want the swappable amp end plugs. And that's because you're going to be buying what Effect Audio call their TermX system to get the swappable amp end plugs on the end of the cable. The TermX system gives the ability to swap between 3.5mm, 4.4mm, and I've even got an old 2.5mm connection here. I don't know if they still do those. What's more important and better though, because most people are just going to buy a 4.4mm terminated cable and be done with it, is that the AXC cable comes standard with the ConnX system at the earphone end. Basically what that means is that you buy the AXC cable or any of the other Effect Audio cables with this system, you buy it with the connectors you need right now. Let's say 2-pin connectors. And then let's say you buy yourself an IEM in the future with a different connector, maybe MMCX. You buy yourself the new set of connections that go on the earphone end and you keep the same cable. The existing connectors unscrew with this little tool that comes in the case, then you screw on the new connection type and away you go. It's a quick and easy way to make your earphone cable investment last potentially forever if you take good care of it. The other cool thing about that is it let me try the AXC cable across a number of different IEMs to share with you. Specifically, I tried the MMCX terminated FiiO FX17 IEMs, and then the 2-pin terminated Hidizs Mark 12 Taurus IEMs. The stock cable on the FX17 IEMs is already excellent. They're a flagship IEM after all. Their cable is already a copper, silver and gold hybrid. It's probably a more expensive cable than the AXC cable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's better. With the AXC cable on the FX17s, they get a little bit crisper sounding. Sounds like guitar strums become more articulate and a little bit more energetic. The sense of separation of sounds is also a little bit enhanced with the AXC cable. It can lead to a little bit of extra sibilance and maybe a bit of extra fatigue from the already slightly bright FX17 tuning, but those that crave detail and clarity will likely love it. Returning to the stock cable on the FX17s after using the AXC cable reveals that it produces a smoother and richer sound on the FX17s. But at the same time, it's a little bit less dynamic and punchy. The sense of bass weight was a bit larger, a bit fuller and a bit more present from the AXC cable. And so personally, whilst I prefer the slightly more refined, less energetic sound of the stock cable on the FX17s, I can definitely hear why some people would love the AXC on that IEM. And on top of that, it will depend on the genres that you listen to and prefer. For example, for classical music, I think the AXC cable could be even better than the stock cable on the FX17s because it's going to amp up the sense of texture, detail, and maybe even a bit of separation from each of the orchestral instruments. But as always, it's a choice for you to make depending on your taste and your genre preferences. And so for now, let's try the AXC cable with a different IEM, specifically the Hidizs Mark 12 Taurus. The full review of these is coming up soon, so be sure to subscribe because there's lots that you might want to know about this pretty affordable IEM. And part of it is that they can sound fantastic. Unlike the FX17s, the Mark 12s don't come with a premium cable. The provided silver-plated copper cable is fine, but you can immediately see and feel the better quality of the AXC cable when you compare them side by side. And this time when I compared the two, it was the AXC cable that came across with more a sense of refinement and a smoother overall sound. The AXC cable actually reduces the sense of glare or harshness that the stock cable with the Mark 12s can produce. And once again, the AXC cable brings a greater sense of weight to the bass from these IEMs. That's not to say it's making the IEM more bassy, but somehow the bass feels more solid with the AXC cable, like it's got more foundation behind it. To me, the AXC cable is a clear and obvious upgrade over the stock cable on the Hidizs Mark 12s. And indeed, it's going to be a clear and obvious upgrade over the cables on most more budget IEMs. Now, yes, you could easily and fairly call out the fact that the AXC cable costs about the same amount as the Mark 12s, but that's also where the longevity of the Effect Audio designs comes into play. You could invest in this to go with something like the Hidizs Mark 12, and if you then one day decide to upgrade from the Mark 12 to maybe the FiiO FX17s, you can still use the same cable. The Effect Audio cables are so well made to start with, and then the fact that you can swap the connections to make them suit any IEM you buy in the future means that they're more of a long-term investment. You're not buying an AXC cable to go with IEM-A, you're buying an AXC cable to go with every IEM you ever might own. And so in other words, you could buy an AXC cable to go with the Hidizs Mark 12, or maybe to go with the Moondrop Harman IEM that I'm also reviewing very, very soon. You could start with either of those and the AXC cable, but then upgrade to wherever you want and bring the cable with you. If that sounds good to you, I've got links in the description down below where you can go and pick up the AXC cable for yourself. But if you'd prefer to choose an IEM cable that might stay with you forever and therefore have a slightly different character from the AXC cable, I've pinned a video here at the end where I talk through all of the other cables in Effect Audio's range, called the Signature range, that the AXC belongs to. So check that video out next and find the cable that's going to fit best to your taste, your IEMs, and stay with you as a long-term option. For now though, a huge thanks to YouTube channel members, thank you to channel Patreon members, and thank you to those of you who leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.